everybody, it's Doreen, and I'm back today with a card that I've made. Now, I've made mine a birthday card, but as I've said in previous videos, the cards that I make are mostly birthday cards and a few anniversary cards. But you do not have to make it as a birthday card. You can make it whatever kind of card you want. So, with today's card, we're going to be doing a lot of layering. And I did use a silhouette for this card, and you probably should use a silhouette or some type of cutting machine because of the measurements that I'm going to be giving you to make the card. These are not standard measurements that you could do with your paper trimmer. If you wanted to, you could, but you'd have to be doing a lot of rounding up to make the card. So, what does our card look like for today? This is the card that we will be making. So come on and join me, and I'm going to show you how I made this card. Okay, everybody, so we're going to get started with making our card. Now, this card that we're going to be making today, I don't know if you're going to be able to use your paper trimmer to cut out your pieces, because the sizes that I've made all of my layers, because this card is going to be a lot of layering, I didn't measure the typical per eighth of an inch or quarter of an inch when putting the layers on my mat. I kind of just used a sketch that I found. What I did was I went out on the internet and I put in Google card sketches. I'm sorry, everybody, not card sketches, but card layouts. And what I found was different types of layouts for a card, because I was running out of ideas on how I wanted to do this card. So I wanted just the layouts. Now, when I did find this site, it didn't give any measurements to what size the cardstock is cut. And I believe that's because they want you to use your imagination and you're cutting it to whatever size you want the card to be. So my measurements, I decided I wanted to make a large card, not a typical A2 card, which is the 4.5 by 5.5 inches. I decided I wanted to make it a little bit larger, and I started off with the 5 by 7, and I didn't like those measurements, so I went ahead and made my card a little bigger. So I'm going to give you all of the measurements that you'll need to make this card if you're going to cut everything out using your silhouette. So I won't be giving you the inches as if you were using your paper trimmer, where you're using, these measurements here. I'm going to be using the measurements and width in the Silhouette software. And those measurements will be down below in the description box. I'm not going to put them up here in the video because there's too many measurements for me to do that. So rather than me rambling on, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is, our card measures 11 inches by 7 3/4 inches, and I took it and scored it in half to make it a 5.5 by 7 3/4 inch card. So this is our card layer. So now my next layer that I'm going to lay on top of here is this layer, and this is just this cardstock that I'm using for the card, and well, actually for the card is some of the Joann Fabric textured cardstock, and for the black piece right here, this is some of the Recollection textured cardstock. So that layer is going to fit here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do my layering before I add everything to the card. So I'm going to put my card up here for now, and we'll start doing our layering. So now this piece measures, and I had to write everything down because like I said, there's quite a few measurements in here. This piece actually measures 7.369 for your width. So that's what you'll put in the width for your Silhouette software. I'm not going to show you how to do that because I have plenty of videos that show you how to change the paper size in your Silhouette software. And you can use your Designer Edition or the Studio software for portions of this card. Some of the card I am using the print and cut design. I'm using the Silhouette software. So the height is 5.2494. So that will be the first layer we're going to be using. So now our next layer, which we're using this cardstock, and this is from this paper pack by Hobby Lobby. It's the Paper Studio stack, and it's called Tattered and Worn. And sorry for that glare. I've used this before. I really like the papers in here because they have such masculine paper as well as for feminine paper, but I like it for the masculine especially. So now this piece measures 7.291 for your width, and for your height you're going to type in 8.219. Now don't forget to take the aspect ratio button and take that check mark out of there, because if you don't do that, once you put in your width, it's going to automatically try to do the height. So that is going to go on top of here. And I just wanted a small line of the black to show. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to use, since this is just paper, I think I will use my two-way zig pen. I just have to be careful when I go to put this on here that I get on there exactly the way I want it, because it will be hard to get up. So let's measure this, or add this on here, and hopefully we'll get it on here just the way I want it, that you'll be able to see just a small hint of that black. Okay, so now let's move on to the next layer, and I'm going to have the sketch or the layout up here in the video so you can see what I'm trying to do for my card layout. So now my next layer, which is going to be black again, that is going to measure, you'll put in 6.370 for your width, and you're going to put in 4.577 for your height. Let's make sure we're putting on the right piece, and that is correct. So we'll put this layer aside and we'll layer this layer up. So now our next piece, and this also came from the Tattered and Worn paper stack by Paper Studio. This piece measures 6.290 for the width, and you'll put in 4.497 for the height. And as I said before, I will put all of these measurements down in the description box, so you don't have to try to remember these as you're watching the video. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the Tombow. And I'm just going to put one. Oh, my Tombow's empty, so I guess I will be using the ATG gun. So let's bring our piece back here, and we'll go ahead and add this layer. And once again, we just want a small piece of that black showing. So now this actually will go on top of this piece. So why don't we go ahead and add this layer. So now I will use the ATG gun and put that layer on. You know how I like to use a lot of tape. I don't like for things to come up. So this piece will go about right here. So now we have that layer together. Let's see, did we get that on there straight? Yeah, we did. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do our next set of layering, which is going to be like so. And this piece is not from that Tattered and Worn. This is just a scrap piece that I had left over from another card that I did. As a matter of fact, I think I did a card like this 3 or 4 years ago, and I found that scrap in my tub of scraps that I have. So now our next layer, which is this layer, is going to measure 5.112 for your width, And then for your height, you'll type in 2.498. And that's going to go there. And then this layer measures 5.033 for your width and 2.42, I believe that's 5. Let me make sure. I'm sorry, it's 2.421 for your height. And that's going to go on top of here. Like so. So I'm going to get refill my Tombow so we can continue on. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my Tombow all ready to go. So let's get our tape on here. And we'll add our next layer. And that's going to go sitting right here on top. And we're just going to have just a small amount of the black showing. And so there we have it. So now we have our layer to lay right here. But before we put that on, we're going to go ahead and add this layer. Now to do this, this is not an actual file. This is using your shapes that come with your Silhouette software. And this took me a lot of time to figure out, so I don't know if I'm going to do a video on this, on how I did this, because I got to practice it a little bit more before I go ahead and do a video and show you how to do it. But if you want, you can go out there and see if you can find, I would search maybe for something like an hourglass image and see if you can get it that way. And I did use the print and cut to do this as well. And I did the print and cut to fill in my background as well, because I didn't have this color cardstock and I kind of liked that, and I had this background image. So we're going to put this one on next, and I want to kind of line it up in the center like so. So let's get some tape on here, and I do have the measurement for it. It is actually for the width 5.291 and for the height 5.079. If you happen to find an image that is an hourglass shape. If not, you can go ahead and eliminate this piece altogether. And what you could do, because you really can't see, once we put this layer on here, you won't be able to see that that was an hourglass. You could probably try and just make a triangle. Cut out 2 triangles and put them in the center of your card, and then you'll be adding this piece on top. So let me go ahead. Now I'm going to pull this closer to me so I can get this lined up and centered. And then I'll come back in camera frame once I've done that. So we'll get this lined up as close to the center as I can get it. And as you know, I don't like to measure anything. And I think I do pretty good when I don't measure. But sometimes I don't. You know, it's kind of a trial and error thing. Okay, so now I've got that layer on. And then we're going to add our one and final layer before we put our this all onto our card. And also add our car. So let's line this up and get this centered. And we'll get some tape on here. And I think I'm going to use the Tombow, my ATG gun for this, because this cardstock is kind of heavy. And I don't want it to come loose. So this card is basically all about layering. And like I said, it was an actual, I don't know why I want to keep calling them sketches, but it was an actual layout for a card. Okay, so there we have it. So now we're going to take all of this and we're going to add it to our card, like so. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and put my inside sentiment in there. And that was also a print and cut. One thing I found with using the print and cut feature, you definitely go through a lot of ink. And right in the middle of making this card, I ran out of ink and had to run out and get some more. So I'm going to line this up and get that in there. And now I'm going to fold this back, and we're going to add all of our layers to the front of our card. Now I am going to use the ATG gun because we've got a lot of layers on here, and I want this to stick. And this cardstock is heavy. It's not a paper cardstock, so I want to make sure that this stays tacked down. So you're going to see me putting a lot of tape on here. And there we go. So now we're ready to put this on the front of our card. So we're going to line this up, and then I'm just going to put this down here. And there you have it. There is all of our layers. So now, my little car here, this is a silhouette file, and I will put the file number down in the description bar. But the number is 43965. And this is a print and cut. So I popped this up with some foam tape. So we're going to go ahead and put our car on. And then what I'm going to do is, once we've got the car on, I'm going to, naturally, we got to add some embellishments now. Because this card is for a male, naturally I can't add, you know what, my favorite. Nope, no bling for this one. So, but it will come up with something. So, line it up and press it down. Now I believe when this first comes out on your mat, the car is facing the other way. All I did was just flip it, and you can do that in your Silhouette software. So now, let me go ahead and add just a few more embellishments, and I'm going to come back with the finished card and, of course, my envelope. Okay, everybody, so I'm back with the finished card, and I didn't add too many embellishments. So all I've done is gone ahead and taken, once again, some of the candies, and I've used these before on my male cards or my masculine cards because I can't add any bling. I'm so sad about that. But anyway, these candies were actually the colors that you see them as. I did buy predominantly white candies, and then I just take them and take my big markers and color it in. But this particular set I did, it was the brown, gold, and green color, and they look like this. And I just put those on, some of those on each side of the car. Now for my envelope, I did use my We Are Memory Keeper 123 punch board to make my envelope. And the size of the envelope I used from the board, I made it 5.5 by 8.5. So that meant you cut your paper at 11 1/8, and your first punch guide should be 4.5. Now I did make a box envelope, and if you don't have the 123 punch board, it does, the 123 punch board does come with the opportunity for you to make your box envelopes, which I do because my cards are so three-dimensional. Now you probably could get away with not making a box envelope for this card, because the only thing that's really popped up is the car, so it probably would fit in your envelope. But because I've decided to make mine that way, I just went on ahead and made it. So what does it look like? I just went ahead and used some of the antique dot paper stack that I have, I apologize for that noise. It's by My Mind's Eye, and it just has little dots all over it. So I use this a lot to make my envelopes. It's just regular paper. So be careful when you are scoring that you don't score too hard and tear or rip your paper. And this Happy Birthday is a silhouette file. I will also put that down in the description bar. I just went ahead and did a print and cut with that to put that on the front of the envelope. So that's it, everybody. This is my layered birthday card. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye. Also, remember, this does not have to be a birthday card. You can make this whatever kind of card you want. Bye, everybody.